Hey guys, FloppyWaffle69 here. In today's video, I figured we'd do a little analysis on the Tier 7 Imperial Japanese Navy destroyer, the Yudachi. The reason I feature the Yudachi, obviously, is because the Yudachi is um, featured in that Java C event that kind of Wargaming's doing with a bunch of these ships. I know like the highlighter or the headliners are like the Jupiter 42 and the Minigumo, which eventually I'll get to. I don't know if I'm gonna get to it during the event while it's still running, but I'm gonna try my best for you guys. So, anyways, let's delve into the Yudachi. So, what is the Yudachi? Well, the Yudachi is basically a Shiratsuyu class destroyer that is emphasizing even more on the torpedoes. I know you didn't think that was possible. Well, let me tell you how. It all comes down to the consumable loadout that eventually we'll get to here later on in the video, and you'll definitely see examples of why the ship is special in that regard. But yeah, it definitely takes that torpedo destroyer style of gameplay that you're already used to with the Imperial Japanese Navy, and it just exacerbates it, makes it even, and basically emphasizes it even more for you. So let's delve into a couple of stats here that like I always do in the beginning of the video. And let's see how she stacks up against the competition. So Yudachi's health pool is clocking in at 13,200. That's like the fifth highest, I believe, for all Tier 7 destroyers. So that's pretty good. It's not bad, right? For in regards to Tier 7 standards. Your detection base is 6.79 kilometers. Side note, the air is about 3 kilometers. It's the fourth lowest, which isn't bad either. That is awesome. It's nothing new to Japanese destroyers being relatively stealthy, and that should definitely come to no surprise. Max speed, you're clocking in at 34 knots. Now, this is interesting. It is actually tied for the slowest DD with the Shiratsuyu, her sister ship, basically. I did not actually not know that until I looked up some of the hard stats on the ships and the boats at this tier. It's pretty interesting, right? So thank God she has a speed boost. I mean, then again, 34 knots isn't too slow, but I mean, then when you think about the Iowa getting 33 knots, it can be relatively slow. So rudder shift is 3.2 seconds, which is a three-way tie with the Akatsuki and the Shikanye. And then the turning circle is coming in at 570 meters, which is the fourth best in for Tier 7. So again, not a bad ship so far. I think the ship's kind of lining up to be like, okay, like this is what I would expect out of a torpedo destroyer, right? Well, here we go. Torpedo destroyers definitely focus on the torpedoes. So let's delve into the main battery to show you just how much so that it is a torpedo boat. So the main battery is 2x2 and 1x1 of 127 millimeters with a reload of 9 seconds and the 180 degree turning on those guns with just 30 seconds. So typical for IGN standards, right? Pretty slow, pretty anemic on the reload, right? So nothing out of the ordinary again. Um, torpedoes. Torpedoes. This is the bread and butter of this ship. So let's talk about the torpedoes. 2x4 launchers of 610 millimeter torpedoes. Range of 15 kilometers, which sounds amazing. And I must agree, it is super nice having those 15 kilometers. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've played against, like, let's say a 20-kilometer Shimakaze or Yoshino, and I see the torpedoes, they're spotted, but they just get in the way of active maneuvering and stuff once they've been spotted for a long time. And maybe I eat one or two, or, because it's just, they're in the water traveling so slow and been detected for so long. Like, I mean, realistically, I don't eat a lot of them, but I have. Okay. Honesty is a virtue. Damage clocking in at 15,633. Pretty high, but not terribly high. Reload is about 100 seconds for these torpedo tubes, traveling at 64 knots, which, in my opinion, back in the day was pretty average. Nowadays, I consider that slower, but I'll go with average. I think that's good. That's a good base. This thing. Now, a side note about the torps is with those 64 knots, the detectability range of the torps clocking in at 1.9 kilometers. Okay, which again, you might be saying, well, what does that seem high? Is that low? I don't know. Well, to put in perspective, that Shimakaze with those, is it the F3s or the Type? I don't know. The one that's the 20-kilometer torpedoes, those have a detection of 2.5 kilometers, and you have about a 15-second reaction time with those. So the Yudachi has a detection of the 1.9 kilometers and has about 11 seconds to react. So you can kind of gauge it off that, as maybe you'll be more accustomed to the Shimakaze 20-kilometer torpedoes. So these are very detectable torps. Very, very detectable torps. So what are these torpedoes good for? Usually torpedoes that have a average or subpar speed coupled with a high detect on the torps, I consider zoning torpedoes, meaning that I will put them, instead of launching necessarily on the white indicator, I'll launch them in areas to either hold sectors down or anticipation of turns. I just find that better than trying to gauge off the white indicator. Not that you should be using the white indicator anyways. I'm just saying as a general basis. That's usually what I do. Like Yoshino is another example of a ship that I just put at like zoning torpedoes. And you're going to see examples of that. I mean, I know of this, like for example, what is this, an Ipiranga that's just AFK sailing the border? Like I didn't know that at the time, but I just zoned the torpedoes around him, particular areas of exit strategies that he could do. So that's where, why my torpedoes launch where they are, basically, so to speak. So AA is just absolutely terrible. It's not even worth talking about it. You're on a destroyer and you're an IJN destroyer. So don't even ask. If you really want to delve deep in the stats, go ahead and look. To no one's surprise that it's going to be trash. And then the consumables. The consumable layout on this ship is slot 1, you're going to have that damage control party. Slot 2, you can have your standard smoke for Japanese. Slot 3, you're going to have your speed boost. Thank God. Again, standard speed boost, which I believe is 8 kilometers, or sorry, 8% increase. And then your slot 4 coming in with that torpedo reload booster, which is kind of the highlight of the ship, I would like to say. So basically, you have the Shiratsuyu that in the line has to trade smoke for picking up that torpedo reload booster. But now you have a premium version at tier 7 where, hey, you get both. And you get longer range torpedoes. But are these torpedoes better than the Shiratsuyu? Debatable. I mean, yes, you have longer range, but you're not. That, to me, that doesn't really make up for the fact that the Shiratsuyu already has that notable ability to be a menace on the high seas, coupled with its speed, its reload time. It's very similar, but you're just getting that after 15. And I think the Shiratsuyu's torps are not as detectable or as the Yudachi here, but again, I don't know. I'd have to look, delve a little deeper on that. But you're more than welcome to do that too as well. So yeah, with all that out of the way, now we can just kind of talk about the game, the Yudachi, how she plays, that sort of stuff. And hopefully by the hard stats that I've already listed from this ship, you kind of see that this ship is not made for guns. This is in all intents and purposes a torpedo boat destroyer. So if you're thinking about buying this ship, or if you obtain this ship in other ways, in regards to Santa crates or whatever, or super crate, super container, just know that this is a torpedo boat, and that you're going to have to play it like how you see me playing it. Obviously, if there's going to be different situations, I do get pushed into a gunfight at times, but you're going to have to find out and play it accordingly, based on certain scenarios. So I find this thing, like I told you, zoning torpedoes, that's the way to play the ship. Using the mini map, recognizing the opponents that I'm fighting, knowing the strengths and the weaknesses of the ships I'm playing against is going to make the ship highlight even more. This ship, in my opinion, and this is a very, very honest opinion about this ship, I don't find this ship particularly good. Is it fun to play? I do consider the ship fun to play because it has access to torpedo reload booster, just like I find the Shiratsuyu a fun ship to play. But I don't think this is going to be a competitive destroyer by any means. I don't think this is going to be a destroyer you're going to be using in ranked, honestly. And I just feel like there's going to be a lot of other destroyers that are just going to outclass the ship in so many ways. In my honest opinion, I believe, like for example, the tier 7 Akatsuki, the IJN mainline destroyer going down to the Shimakaze line, it's just a better destroyer. Yes, it's more detectable at 6.4, but 6.1, 6.4 kilometers. I mean, realistically, that's tomatoes for me. It's really not that big of a difference that you're not going to be able to play around that and still utilize the torpedoes, which on the thing have a way faster reload, which I believe is it just over a minute, or is it a minute 30, somewhere around that range. And you get 9 of them. Launch 3 launchers of 3, which are great. Which I think triple launch torpedoes are. I don't know what it is. Again, I could be speaking out of my ass here. The torpedo dispersion out of quintuplet or out of triple launchers are night and day better than quad launchers. I find quad launchers to be the worst torpedo launchers in the game. You get the wonkiest dispersion on the quad launchers. I don't know what it is. If you think I'm wrong, hey, that's fine. If you think you've been seeing this too in similarities, please by all means let me know in the comments down below, because I don't know about me, but I'm on to somebody on this. I feel like it's just the worst. But anyways, I digress. So as you saw there, I had to smoke up. I was engaging a Jupiter 42, which is obviously you see a lot of those being played right now. This update with 14.1, going into 14.2 here in about a week or so. I'll do a review of the Jupiter 42 down the road as well. But yeah, obviously that thing is all guns. And I knew that there was no way I could take a gunfight in that situation. And knowing by my allies, I just didn't. Maybe they did shoot it a little bit, but I had to smoke up based upon the Mogami out there, the Zara, the Tai Hang, plus the Jupiter 42, and potentially the aircraft carrier as well. I had to smoke up, so had to disengage. But now we're out. Now we're spotting. We're using our RPF radar locator to see where that nearest ship is to me, which is a mandatory. Well, not a mandatory skill, but I would consider it on the Yudachi for sure. I think it's almost a mandatory skill. But again, you could get away with it. We'll get into the captain build later. Well, actually, why not? We'll just get into it right now. The captain build on this thing is interesting because you take your standard 10 commander points that you would always take, but then also you could pick up the RPF as again for the 14, and you want to emphasize once again the speed of the torpedoes and your torpedo the reloading ability as well. If you could pick up adrenaline rush instead of the reloader too, that's fair. But I do have this whole guide here set up that you can see kind of where I align with my captain to build. But there is a difference than what I would recommend via what I have currently on my Yudachi. So basically, rule of thumb is Shimakaze Commander, pretty much going to transfer over. If you actually want a even more one-for-one transfer, I would say if you have a Shiratsuyu, that's going to transfer more one-for-one. But yeah, pretty much built for torpedoes and concealment, and you're going to be a-okay on this thing. And then we might as well just talk about the upgrades real quick. Pretty standard. I know in that second slot, I do take the coal upgrade for the speed boost. I have a surplus of coal, including every coal ship, so why would I not do that? Give me a better duration on my speed boost, which is awesome. It's going to allow me to make up for that speed deficit on this thing. So I would highly, highly, highly recommend that. Plus the propulsion and the torpedo reload in the slot 3 and the propulsion obviously in slot 4. So perfect example on the Zara, throwing torpedoes where I think he's going to go as zoning torpedoes. Again, his white indicator wasn't anywhere based here, but I knew that he would eventually turn out when fighting my Veneto there. He would try to disengage himself and kite, so to speak, and we end up picking up that kill solely because I'm zoning, knowing where or anticipating where he's going to go. And you're going to see that a lot with torpedo boat destroyers. Jupiter 42 picks up. We need this kill. I know 9-second, maybe with adrenaline rush, a little lower. Got to factor that in. I need this guy dead for my team. He's the only real big threat now for not only me. Well, yeah, there is the aircraft carrier, but for the team. But we're going to go ahead and kill this guy. He almost picks me up based on some really trolly dispersion I feel like I had here. But yeah, we were able to pick him up there. Smoke just in case. I didn't know. I did smoke. I wish I would have smoked maybe a second earlier because I think the Veneto would have been in the gun firing range or bloom of the Jupiter, our Veneto. But we ended up picking up the kill there. As you can see, not a gunfighter. But again, something you're going to notice about Japanese destroyers is they have guns, guys. This is down the line. Use them at times. You're not going to start engagements, but to disengage while going your smoke or running away, because most of the guns are concentrated at the rear, they're great. They are great, great, great. And the alpha damage for them is really good. I think you're clocking in over 2K alpha strike with this. If you're not, then I'm sorry. I'm used to Shimakaze with the 2150, I believe it is. And so, but yeah, use the guns. I know your reload sucks. Gun shell arcs are kind of meh, But if you have to, use the guns. I do it more often than not, especially from concealment or when someone's completely distracted. And obviously with destroyers too. You might be a torpedo destroyer, but it doesn't mean you're going to torpedo the destroyer that you're fighting, right? So guns are going to be the most reliable form of damage. So I'd highly recommend that. So all in all here, while we're winding down here towards the end of the game or the end of the replay, what I recommend the Yudachi. Yeah, I would. I think she's a good ship. She's a great pickup to have fun. But I wouldn't recommend her for competitive. Super fun destroyer to play at low tiers or at tier 7 and random battles. And would highly recommend her. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the video and I will see myself out and I will catch you all next time.